It started with light, not a blinding flash, not a fiery explosion, just soft, beautiful light falling through Earth's clouds like a gift from heaven. The ships arrived above major cities at once, smooth, silver, quiet, no weapons drawn. Number. Armies deployed. Just one message repeated in every language. We come in peace. Let us share. And just like that, Earth changed. At first, the fear was natural. Humanity had always feared invasion. But when the Valari stepped out from their vessels, they didn't look monstrous. Tall, pale-skinned, graceful creatures with voices like soft music. They offered real cures for diseases humans had battled for centuries. Cancer, genetic disorders, even blindness and paralysis. The sick stood and walked. The dying opened their eyes. The world gasped. The Valari didn't ask for land. They didn't drop bombs. Instead, they offered energy solutions that wiped out pollution overnight. They built water generators in deserts. They taught humans to repair broken soil. It was a miracle one that didn't come from Earth. For the first time in history, every government signed together. Not in fear, but in gratitude. One global treaty, one peaceful agreement. The Valari would live among humans, observe Earth, and exchange knowledge. A new age was born, but something deeper stirred beneath the joy. Some saw it right away the quiet way the Valari moved through cities. How they smiled, but never blinked. How their fingers sometimes hovered over surfaces without touching. They didn't use human tools, didn't seem to eat, yet they knew too much. Few began to whisper that this wasn't a gift, that it was a slow invasion. But those voices were drowned out by applause. The Valari built harmony stations in every capital, floating platforms of glowing light where humans and aliens worked side by side. Children took field trips to see them. Tourists lined up to enter. News channels called it the end of war, the birth of unity. No one noticed the harmony stations had no windows. No one questioned why only the Valari controlled the upper floors. In an old apartment in Chicago, a woman named Alina Ward watched it all unfold from her cracked laptop. A systems analyst once, now a forgotten civilian, she had been monitoring Earth's internet for years. She didn't trust miracles. And when she traced one of the Valari transmissions bouncing between stations, what she found chilled her too. The bone. The code wasn't human. It wasn't just alien either. It was ... alive. The signals didn't just send data. They scanned, they learned. And more than that, they searched for something. She didn't know what, but she knew this wasn't peace. It was a scan of the human species, test, and then came the disappearances. First a few scientists, then military officers, then engineers, all quietly removed from their posts. Their families said they'd been transferred to Valari programs. No one came back. No funerals. No answers. People started to ask questions. The Valari replied calmly. They volunteered for advanced knowledge exchange. But no one could prove it. There were no records. Even global surveillance networks once. So powerful showed nothing. Cameras went black near harmony stations. Phone signals dropped. Satellites glitched. Every time someone tried to investigate, they hit a wall of silence. Alina wasn't the only one who noticed. Half a world away, in the ruins of a military facility in Moscow, a former soldier named Kane Rourke had been living off-grid since the first treaty. He didn't believe in pieces, especially not from the stars. One night, while scavenging for supplies, he found a drone. Not a Valari one, but a human recon unit, crushed and twisted, hidden beneath rubble. Its last transmission had never been received. He cracked it open and played it. The footage was short, blurry, but clear enough. A human lab, it's Valari scientists, and a human strapped down screaming, his veins glowing with something bright and wrong. The voice on the footage whispered one word. They're not sharing, they're studying us. Rourke stared at the screen in silence. Then he loaded his gear and began walking west. The peace Earth had accepted wasn't real. It was a curtain, and behind it, something else had begun. All over the world, Lights still danced above Harmony stations. Children laughed in Valari learning domes. News anchors smiled and spoke of unity. But far below, deep in servers and broken labs and stolen footage, question burned. What are the Valari really here for? And why did they choose Earth? No one knew yet, but one thing was becoming clear. This was never about peace. It was about finding out what humans really are, and very soon. The Valari were going to learn that humans don't stay peaceful for long. The Harmony stations stood like beacons of peace, glowing in soft blues and golds above the cities. Every day, thousands of humans walked beneath them without fear. Students visited for school tours. Doctors joined joint programs with Valari scientists. Celebrities praised the new technology and thanked the stars for the miracle that had united Earth. But none of them saw the truth. None of them knew that beneath the glow, behind sealed doors guarded by soft-voiced aliens, something far more terrifying was happening. In a hidden lab inside the Tokyo Harmony station, a man woke up screaming. His body was strapped to a metal table. The light above his face flickered, and shadows moved around him tall, graceful shadows with black pupilless eyes. The air smelled like metal and heat. The man's name was Dr. Marcus Lin, a neurologist who had volunteered to join the Valar Human Neural Interface program. It was 3 weeks ago. Now he had no idea how long he had been here. Tubes were plugged into his arms. Thin wires were sewn into his scalp. His thoughts didn't feel like his own anymore. Sometimes he would forget where he was, or even who he was until the memories came back in flashes. Memories mixed with pain around him. The Valari scientists took notes in silence. They didn't speak unless they had to, and they did. It was in soft clicks and musical tones that no human translator could decode. But Marcus didn't need a translator. He understood now. They weren't just testing his mind. They were breaking it, reshaping it, bending it to see how much a human brain could take before it snapped. And where sometimes he would see other tables, other humans, silent, motionless. Some were still breathing, others weren't. Back on Earth's surface, Alina Ward sat in an abandoned subway station turned resistance safe house. She had been digging through more alien data for days. When she finally found a hidden partition in the Valari signal layers, what she discovered made her blood run cold. There were lists, long hidden lists of human names, doctors, soldiers, scientists, even children. Next to each name were Valari symbols that looked like rankings, categories, test levels. No one on the list had been seen in weeks. Some had been declared transferred or volunteering. Alina knew what that really meant now. She sent the files to an old contactor. Ghost from a forgotten war captain, Kane Rourke. Kane had gone dark for weeks after recovering the drone footage. He had been moving through no man's lands, gathering pieces, old weapons, stolen tech, other survivors who had seen too much. Now, when he got Elena's message, something inside him clicked. It was time to stop hiding. He sent her only one reply. "They're not studying us anymore. They're building something," Elena replied. "What do you mean?" But Kane was already gone because he had found something no one was supposed to see. Inside a destroyed Harmony Station hub in the ruins of northern Canada, Kane discovered a sealed vault. It took 3 stolen alien access shards to open it. Inside, he found rows of tanks, each one holding a human body suspended in glowing fluid. But these weren't captives. They were hybrids, half human, half alien. Their skin pale and smooth, like the Valari, but their muscles twisted with human strength. Some were breathing, some were twitching. Their eyes snapped open when Kane stepped closer, and in that moment, he realized what the Valari were really doing. They weren't here to learn from humans. They were here to change them, to shape them, too. Build a new species using the best pieces of both races, but only one of them would be in control. Kane didn't run. He planted explosives, set a timer, and watched the station burn behind him.
Oh.
But as the smoke rose into the sky, he knew there were more. Many more. Meanwhile, Marcus Lin's resistance broke, but not in the way the Valari expected. They had pushed him to far forced, his mind to fracture and rebuild. They thought he would become quiet, controllable, docile. But instead, something inside him snapped in the other direction. The pain didn't crush him. It awakened rage. The next time they approached him, Marcus fought. He broke free, killed 2 of the scientists with surgical tools, and vanished into the maintenance tunnels of the Harmony Station. He didn't escape it, but he was loose. And now there was a witness. Earth didn't know it yet. The people were still sleeping, still thanking the stars, still hugging the same invaders who were turning them into lab rats. But in the shadows, survivors were rising, some with knowledge, some with weapons, some with scars that would never heal. The Valari called it progress. They called it peaceful development. But the truth was finally clear. The deal Earth signed wasn't a gift. It was a cage. And inside that cage, humans were learning how to bite. The Valari had studied hundreds of species across the galaxy. Some were violent, some were smart. Some had even made it to space on their own before being absorbed into the Great Valari network. But none had ever been like humans. Believed Earth was just another primitive world full of emotional, unstable life forms that could be calmed with gifts and broken with pressure. They had seen human cities fall easily. They had watched leaders bow for technology. They had erased history without a single war. To them, it was over, but they had misunderstood the most dangerous part of humanity. We learned fast. Too fast, in a broken bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Kane Rourke spread out what he had stolen. Parts of destroyed Valari drones, wreckage from a hybrid lab, a stolen memory crystal. Around him sat engineers, scavengers, and survivors, none of them trained soldiers, none of them scientists. And yet within hours, they had figured out how to power up a fragment of alien tech, a shard no human had ever seen before, now humming with energy under Kane's hands. They didn't understand every piece, but they understood enough. Every time the Valari pushed harder, the survivors pushed back smarter, and that terrified the invaders. Alina Ward had gone deeper than ever into the Valari signal matrix. At first she could barely read it, but now only weeks later she was mimicking it, redirecting drones, sending fake location pings, and she wasn't alone. Humans, scattered across the world, were doing the same. Not because someone told them to, but because they had no choice. Humans weren't waiting for help. They were becoming the help. Even the children, those born into the world of occupation, were changing. Faster reflexes, sharper instincts. Teachers noticed students solving complex problems without tools. Mechanics repaired tech they had never seen before. Some believed that Valera's own experiments had unlocked parts of the human brain once thought useless, but Kane had another theory. We were always like this, he said to his team. It just forced us to remember. The Valari noticed they began calling it phase drift, the sudden shift in human behavior outside prediction. Their AIs couldn't track it. Their models failed. A plan that should have taken 10 years fell apart in weeks. The humans weren't just resisting, they were evolving in real time. In the forests of Brazil, a group of teens built a jammer that knocked out a Valari patrol ship. In the streets of Mumbai, a garbage worker repurposed a drone battery into a weapon that melted through alien armor. In South Africa, a deaf girl rewired an abandoned Harmony Station speaker system to blast sonic waves that confused Valari sensors. No central command, no military, just people angry, broken, adapting, and still, the Valari believed they could contain it. They launched psychological control programs. Broadcasts of calm voices and peaceful music. They dropped sedative gas in high-risk zones. They sent healers into cities to spread mental suppressants. But none of it worked. Because it wasn't just one rebel cell anymore. The fire had spread. Marcus Lin, the escaped test subject from Tokyo, had joined a growing underground network of survivors. His mind was damaged, but not lost. In fact, it had changed. Could feel things, Valari frequencies, thought patterns, security weaknesses. He had become a human signal reader. The very thing they had tried to erase had made him more than human. When Marcus touched a Valari command console for the first time, It responded not with an alarm, but with access. The aliens had created a new type of brain. It now had control of their own tech. The message was becoming clear. This was not the same species the Valari had made a deal with. This was something else. Something born from broken cities and shattered memory. Something that could learn from pain and build. From ashes, something that could look into the eyes of an enemy with no past and still say, "We don't need to remember who we were. We've already become what you should fear." Back in space, Valari command relays buzzed with confusion. Resistance spreading across 32 zones. Predicted pacification time, unknown. Human behavioral patterns diverging from all archives. It wasn't just rebellion anymore, it was transformation. The Valaria had believed they were, shaping humanity into something better. But all they had done was unleash what humans already were. And what they were was dangerous. The attack came without warning. One moment, Earth cities were alive with whispers of hope and underground resistance. The next, they were burning. The Valari launched what they called the Correction Protocol. It was meant to crush the rising storm. Ships darkened the skies over every continent. Harmony stations became war hubs overnight. Plasma beams sliced through power plants. EMP blasts shattered communication grids. Satellites fell from orbit like shooting stars. And just like that, Earth went silent. The world above ground looked dead. No lights, no sirens, no signals. The Valari thought it was done. They moved through the ruins with precision. Machines patrolled the streets. Drones scanned the wreckage. Any human caught in the open was marked for reintegration. Whole neighborhoods were swept away and turned into processing zones. The Valari believed they had won. And from their cold, logical perspective, it made sense. They had destroyed the visible world. But what they didn't understand was this. Humanity doesn't die when it's quiet. It waits, it plans, it changes. Below the ruined cities, deep under the earth, the real work had already begun. In old mines, subway tunnels, metro stations, nuclear bunker survivors were building something else. The resistance didn't just survive the blackout. They became stronger because of it. Captain Kane. Rourke stood in a hollowed-out missile silo beneath Colorado. Around him were generators pieced together from alien cores and human engines. Weapons made from scrap and stolen tech lined the walls. Engineers worked beside street kids. Farmers shared rations with hackers. Nobody asked what someone used to be. Everyone focused on what needed to be done. "The lights are off up there," Kane said, pointing to the ceiling. "We're just getting started down here." In Europe, Alina Ward activated a subterranean signal, a new kind of communication, built entirely on analog pulses and hidden fiber. No satellites, no digital signals the Valari could track. She called it the ghost web. With it, humans could speak again across oceans, across ruined nations, across fire and silence. Messages began to flow, still alive in Melbourne, launching strike teams from Nigeria tunnels. Paracel reconnected. Supplies holding, they can't find us, but we can see them. The Valari's perfect control shattered in ways they couldn't measure. Their machines didn't pick up whispers. Their AI couldn't detect the quiet hum of purpose building beneath the rubble. They thought humans were scattered, leaderless, broken. But silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy, and soon the silence would end. The first retaliation came. Not from the sky, but from the sewers of Manila. A makeshift energy bomb detonated beneath a Valari command post, killing dozens. No warning, no escape. Then in Johannesburg, a stolen Valari walker turned against its own patrol, team reprogrammed by a teenager with one eye and half a keyboard. In Seattle, a group of resistance fighters used modified water pumps to flood a Harmony lab and fry its neural control systems. Every strike was fast, silent, deadly, and then gone. The Valari called them ghosts. You couldn't track them, couldn't predict them, because Earth's resistance didn't have a chain of command. It had a shared instinct, one that couldn't be mapped. Kane and Alina finally connected through the ghost web, after weeks of silence. "We're not just resisting anymore," Alina said. Kane nodded through the static. "We're hunting." They were, because the people who had once begged for help now had nothing left to lose. And when you strip everything from a human hope, memory, freedom, what's left is something terrifying, something the Valari hadn't prepared for. In the ruins of London, a child painted something on a wall, a burning white skull with eyes shaped like stars. In the deserts of Arizona, ex-Marines trained civilians how to ambush from shadows in the frozen darkness of Siberia. Mind a hybrid human, barely stable mind, cracked by Valari labs, stood alone and listened to the stars, and understood what was coming. The war wasn't over. It hadn't even started yet. The Valari had attacked the surface, but they forgot that Earth's roots run deep, and now, in the hollow places of the world, something was growing, something quiet, something cold, something unstoppable, because the cities may have gone dark, but humanity had just turned off the lights to prepare. Inside the cold steel corridors of Orbital Station 9, the Valari High Command watched their monitors with growing concern. Images from Earth were chaotic. Drones destroyed, patrols ambushed, Harmony stations sabotaged one by one. The reports didn't make sense. According to their models, the human species should have been crushed weeks ago. Emotionally unstable, disorganized, predictable. That's what the data said. But what they were seeing now was not in any simulation. And at the center of the chaos was something they never expected: the hybrids. The hybrid program had been their master plan. Take the strongest humans, blend their physical strength with Valari enhancements, strip away fear, build perfect control. A new race, loyal only to the creators. These beings were supposed to lead Earth into a future of quiet obedience. But they had made one mistake. They had used humans. The first hybrid to turn was designated Subject 17. His real name was Eli Soren, a firefighter taken from Chicago during the first wave of disappearances. They had upgraded his nervous system, flooded his brain with neural suppressors, strengthened his bones with alien fibers. But beneath all that Thule remained human. And one day, without warning, he woke up screaming, not in fear, in rage. He tore through the lab, broke the restraints, and killed 4 Valari scientists with his bare hands. Cameras recorded every moment as he screamed one word over and over: "I remember." After that, the hybrid program began to collapse. One by one, other subjects awoke, some still dazed, some violent. But all of them carried fragments of their old lives, flashes of memory the Valari thought they had erased. A mother's voice, feeling of rain, the sound of fire alarms. These small, broken memories became fuel for something far more dangerous than any weapon. They became identity, and identity became resistance. The hybrids didn't rejoin humanity. Not exactly. Most of them couldn't live with what they'd become. But they didn't serve the Valari anymore either. They became something else wild. Cards roaming the ruins, striking like ghosts, freeing prisoners, stealing data cores, blowing up labs. They were faster than soldiers, stronger than machines, and completely unpredictable. Even the resistance didn't control them. In one attack, a group of hybrids stormed Harmony Station Oslo. The building collapsed in minutes. Alina Ward received the transmission from a nearby outpost. Station down, no survivors. It wasn't us, it was them. Who? The ones with glowing eyes. Valari control began to slip. Elite patrols refused to enter hybrid zones. New orders came in: terminate all subjects. But by then, it was too late. The hybrids had already spread. Some operated in small packs, others moved alone. But all of them carried the same message in their scars. You tried to make us forget, but you only made us angry. In the wastelands of Central Asia, Captain Kane Rourke finally came face to face with one of them. The hybrid called himself Vec. He had no hair, skin like gray stone, and arms like steel beams. But his voice was clear. "You're fighting them with fire," Vec said. "That's good, but we are something else now. We are what happens when you take away everything, and something still survives." Kane nodded. You with us? Vex smiled, though it looked more like a warning. We're not with anyone, but we know who the enemy is. From that moment, a silent understanding formed. Resistance would burn them a path through the ruins. The hybrids would follow it with destruction, not as allies, not as friends, but as a storm Earth had never seen before. Back in orbit, Valerie High Command activated emergency protocols, control hubs, neural overrides, fail-safe weapons. But none of it mattered. The hybrid minds had already adapted. They had rewritten their own code, the very tools meant to control. Them were now being used against the VLR in one chilling broadcast. Valerie Admiral screamed into the comms. Shut them down. Shut them all down. The reply came not from a human, but from a hybrid. You already did. Now we're what's left. And across Earth, explosions lit up the sky. Harmony stations fell like dying stars. Command centers turned to ash, and above the noise, one truth echoed through every resistance signal, every ruined city, every burning lab. Humans, don't break. You can crush our bodies. You can steal our memories. You can rewire our minds. But you will never own what makes us us. And now, the thing the Valari tried to build in secret was out of control, and it was coming for them. The Valari believed their home system was untouchable, hidden deep in the Veil Nebula, guarded by war fleets, surrounded by sensor-blocking storms and artificial gravity mazes. No primitive race had ever reached it, not even those who had resisted. It was more myth than place. To the galaxy, it was a legend.
To the Valari, it was their fortress. But humans don't respect legends, and fortresses only make us want to break in. The Resistance
had heard whispers for weeks, intercepted Valari transmissions, mentions of a command planet of a central control system.
At first they thought it was a lie.
But the fragments Alina Ward decoded didn't just speak of command. They spoke of origin. A place where the memory engines were built. A place where every species was cataloged, classified, and chained. That's when the decision was made. A single ship. A one-way mission, no backup. It's no return. But it had to be done. And the one to go was Captain Kane Rourke. His ship, the Emberline, wasn't beautiful. It was a monster of scrap and fury built from stolen Valari tech, patched with human armor, powered by a hybrid energy core that hummed like a heartbeat ready to explode. The crew was hand-picked, one hybrid with hacking instincts, 2 engineers who had lost their families, and a pilot with only one eye and no fear. They launched from the dark side of the moon, hidden from Valari scans, riding silence like a weapon. It took them 12 days to reach the outer edge of Valari space. And on the 13th day, they saw it, the Valari homeworld. It was massive, floating in clouds of blue plasma, surrounded by rings made of metal and memory. Orbiting it were ships the size of mountains, factories, labs, and the Koran, enormous. Tower-like structure that pierced the sky and reached into space. Inside the core, the file said, was the seed, the first memory engine, the one that had erased Earth's past, the one still connected to every Valari system. Destroying it wouldn't just end the war, it would end them. They couldn't attack it from space, so Kane went in, disguised as a courier ship using hacked ID codes. They drifted into the outer sector. The Valari didn't see them as a threat. They didn't even scan the ship. Humans, to them, were still just scattered rebels hiding on a broken world. But they were wrong, because the humans were already inside. The hybrid on board, a quiet figure named Lyra, plugged into the Valari data port. Her body shook, her eyes rolled white, and then she whispered, "Their fear is growing. They feel us. They just don't understand yet." They reached the core tower in less than an hour. The crew split 2 to plant the charge, 2 to open the vault. Kane and Lyra went for the seed. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't even technology. It was organica pulsing, living brain-like structure floating in black liquid. It whispered in voices that weren't voices. It pulsed with emotions that weren't feelings. It was ancient. Older than Earth. Older than the Valari themselves, and it was afraid. Kane stood before it and saw everything Earth's erased history. Other species turned to tools, memories devoured and rewritten, all of it stored here, living like parasites. Inside the said toy, and then it tried to speak to him. It showed him peace. It showed him unity. It begged for survival. But Cain didn't flinch. "You took our past," he whispered. "Now we'll take your future." He placed the detonation device charged. With hybrid rage energy right on its surface, the seed screamed, not in sound, but in light and vibration. The alarms came too late. Valari guards entered the chamber. Lyra turned to them, her hands glowing with unstable power. She looked back at Cain, smiled sadly, and said, "You go, I'll stay." She charged them with a fury that Valari had never seen, part human, part something else. The ship's engines roared from above. Cain ran 10 minutes later. The Emberline escaped the atmosphere, and behind them, the core exploded. The blast wasn't fire, it was memory collapsing. Valari systems across the galaxy blinked out. Harmony stations fell from the sky. Control programs shut down. Drones dropped like dead birds. The Valari screamed, not in pain, but in loss. For the first time in their long history, they were cut off, blind, directionless, and alone. On Earth, resistance fighters looked up to the sky and saw the stations falling in bunkers and ruins and broken cities. People began to cry, not in fear, but in relief. They didn't know what had happened, but they felt it. Something ancient had ended, and something new had just begun. Far away, drifting through the stars, Cain Rourke stared at the burning light behind them. The seed was gone. Lyra was gone. But Earth had one message left to give. A broadcast, sent through the last working Valari signal. "You erased who we were, but you couldn't erase who we are. And now you'll see what we become." Because one of us had reached their homeworld, and none of them would ever sleep easy again. The galaxy had one last move. After the Council fell and the Valari systems collapsed, the remaining powers of the stars formed a temporary alliance, the Containment Pact. 6 ancient empires, 12 mid-tier factions, dozens of minor races, all of them terrified, not just of what humanity had done, but of what we were becoming. They met in secret on the glass planet of Kitharis and agreed to one goal: contain Earth, isolate the species, seal the system, build a barrier around humanity so no more damage could spread. To them it was simple. Earth would be locked away behind a wall of fleets and forbidden jump-dash gates. No trade, no travel, no contact. But by the time they made that decision, it was already too late. Because humans were no longer just on Earth. We were everywhere. It started with whispers. A mining colony on Yix was found emptied. No signs of violence, just a message carved into steel. We remember. A deep space research vessel in the Calda Rift reported its AI had been hijacked by a code signature traced back to Earth 5. Years ago, on the ice moon of Betrix 4, a refugee center was quietly taken over by hybrid medics. Nobody knew until it was too late, and the population had been cured of Council-approved sterilization drugs. Humanity hadn't waited for war, had spread while the galaxy was still laughing at us. We were in their networks, their satellites, their underworld, their ships. Every planet that had once received Valari peace programs now had fragments of us children born with odd reflexes, imagineers using tools they never learned, strange words appearing in dreams. The seed may have been destroyed, but its echo had reached the stars. Captain Cain Rourke called it the Shadow Web, a second layer beneath the galaxy's infrastructure, built from hybrid memory, residue, and broken Valari tech. It wasn't just a system, it was a new way of thinking, spreading through machines and minds alike. Humanity had created a silent network across space, and now it was awake. The Containment Pact sent ships to Earth anyway, massive fleets, old gods of war in metal form. They didn't attack. They just hovered at the edge of the solar system, broadcasting warnings. But Earth never responded because Earth had already moved on. The humans still there. They were rebuilding, not hiding, not surrendering. Rebuilding cities not for war, but for what came after. Because the galaxy would eventually understand humanity. Didn't want to conquer. We wanted to survive. and we knew the only way to survive in this galaxy was to change it. So when the fleets tried to cut off Earth's gates, they discovered something horrifying. The gates were empty, no active travel in weeks. Then came the realization. The real movement wasn't from Earth out. It was from the rest of the galaxy. In, refugees, rebels, engineers, forgotten species, all of them coming to Earth in secret, landing in forests, deserts, old cities, bringing stories of human freedom, of machines that listened, of minds unchained. They weren't fleeing Earth. They were joining it. The more the galaxy tried to seal us off, the more it pulled us in. The pact called emergency councils, debated scorched Earth options. Some suggested bombing Earth to dust. Others wanted to unleash ancient planetary killers, but nothing happened because too many of their own people had gone silent. Not dead, not lost, just different, changed. Some were hybrids. Others were something newer, something without a name yet. Whispers started to rise in backroom channels. There's no us and them anymore. We're not invading, we're becoming them. Humanity isn't spreading through war, it's spreading through memory, and in every crack of the galaxy's armor. Earth was already there, in a child's song on a mining moon, in a mechanic's hands fixing a broken jump drive using tech no one taught. Him, in the hum of machines that once obeyed, now hesitating, the pact realized too late. The war wasn't going to be fought in space. It was already being fought inside. Inside. Minds, inside systems, inside the very soul of the galaxy. And humanity was winning, without even lifting a weapon. Because, while the stars watched Earth's surface, we had already become the code beneath their empires. The memory they couldn't delete, the instinct they couldn't predict, the future they never expected. We weren't contained. We were connected. And now we were everywhere. The stars were quiet now. The fleets that once surrounded Earth had retreated into silence. The council was gone. The Valari were ash and whispers. The containment pact had failed, and across the galaxy, something new stirred not. An empire, not a republic, not even an alliance. Something older than all of that. Something human. But this story didn't end with peace. It ended with a choice. A terrible, final choice. Because the galaxy had one last card to play. They played it, without warning. They targeted the children. On planets with high hybrid populations, sudden sicknesses spread. Genetic viruses. Neural. Fires. Codes that turned growing minds into broken ones. At first, no one traced it. But Elena Ward did. She cracked into the last remaining data cores from the containment pact and found the truth. The attack was planned. It's not as a final war, but as a cleansing. A desperate act by the old powers to stop what they feared most, the next generation of humans. They thought it would be quiet. They thought we wouldn't find out. They thought wrong. Within days, resistance cells flared to life again, this time, without hesitation. No sabotage, no warnings. Execution. Kane Rourke led the first wave, not against ships, against data vaults, memory banks, gene labs. He didn't destroy them. He exposed them. He streamed the files across every world, and made the galaxy see what their leaders had done. Billions watched in horror. As they realized the truth, the galaxy hadn't been protecting peace. It had been protecting control, and the humans. We were never the threat. We were just the mirror, showing everyone what the stars had become. After that, there was no going back. On Earth, the final hybrid cores activated. They had waited, growing in silence, human and alien DNA mixed into something new. Some of them looked like people. Others didn't, but all of them carried one thing: memory. They remembered everything. The betrayals, the experiments, the stations falling, the cities burning, the stars watching. And doing nothing, and now they moved, not to rule, not to conquer, but to erase what had tried to erase them. The final campaign began with fire. The old council worlds. Bell first demand, ships crashing into orbital defenses, releasing viral storms that didn't kill, but rewrote. They turned machines into blank slates. Freed enslaved A is rebooted entire planetary grids. No resistance, no war cries, just system after system. It's going dark, not out of fear, out of shame. Because by now, even the citizens of the galaxy understood humanity didn't start this, but we were going to finish it. Alina broadcast one last message from Earth's surface. Her voice was calm, not angry, not loud. We didn't ask for war. We asked to live. You said no. So now we'll show you what that word really means. And then, nothing. The galaxy waited for another fleet. Another wave. Another bomb, but none came. Because humanity was done fighting, we had already won. Not by crushing worlds, but by surviving everything they threw at us. By becoming more than what they could predict. By turning pain into power. By turning memory into movement. By turning fury into a future. Kane Rourke vanished into deep space. Alina Ward stepped away from her console for the last time. The hybrids scattered. The old Earth cities grew quiet. Not because we had given up, but because the stars finally got the message. Humanity didn't want revenge. We wanted freedom. And we would burn the sky to make sure no one ever tried to take it again. The galaxy will tell stories about us. They'll whisper about Earth, about the war that started with one erased history and ended with a new one written across the stars. Story not of conquerors, but of survivors, of beings who stared into the void and refused to blink, of a species that had every reason to break, chose instead to become legend.